Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whatever time it is that you inky savages are joining us, we are at episode number 161 of the PenBoyRoy Pentertainment podcast. We're excited to be here. And I can't wait to talk to Tom about the recap of the Long Island Pen Show that we had. It was a lot.
Yes.
There's a lot to talk about.
Regale us of your stories, Roy.
Yes,
Yes.
A lot of good stories, not because of the Pen Show and not because of anything anyone else can relate to, but I'll talk about that. And I'll also talk about maybe criticisms I have of the show or things that I noticed. But before we get into that, I just want you guys to keep doing what you're doing. Keep picking up your pens and your pen paraphernalia over at Goldspot Pens, and please use the affiliate link found in the description below. Click on that and make sure to use coupon code Garfield at checkout for an additional savings on products on the Goldspot website, again using the affiliate link. So I have an orange tabby, just all three of my cats, some of the cutest cats in the history of anything ever born ever. And Tom chose Garfield because he knows how much I love my cats and how much they're a big part of my life.
But I love them all. I picked Garfield just first,
Yeah, so when we do the new coupon code, we'll go with another name of one of my cats because we got to go through all three. We can't just single out and favor because I love them all so much.
The reason why I like your name so much is because if I had three cats, they would probably be named the same exact way.
Great minds think alike, son.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So yes, please use the affiliate link and use coupon code Garfield to save yourself some extra money. And keep an eye out because Luxury Brands is distributing the newest ink color, and they're introducing a new project series volume from Colorverse Ink. It's a Nebula Special, cosmically glistening and out of this world gorgeous. So wait, what's the name of the ink?
It's the project, was it volume 6?
6,
I think
Nebula
it is?
Special.
So
Okay.
all three of these are shimmer inks, and I believe they are all multi-chromatic shimmer inks. So there's or maybe like 2 out of 3 of them. Oh no, I think they're they have multiple shimmer colors going on there. It's very shimmery. It's just super shimmery.
So I'm gonna read the names because they got some pretty funny names. I like the names of the first one is my favorite, Monkey Head Nebula.
Yes.
I don't know, I'm assuming they're naming this after stuff in space
These
that looks like a monkey
real
head.
celestial bodies that are out there. They're just not throwing stuff out there, or they could be. You never know. You gotta look to the skies, I guess.
Do you know if they're actual celestial names? Monkey Head Nebula?
We could probably look it up. It sounds plausible. I know Horsehead Nebula is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's the constellation Orion. I know that, or the Big Dipper, Little Dipper, but those are not Colorverse names. But
There's also. Sorry, go ahead.
No, they do have the other project series. The more recent one has all of the different zodiac signs on there. So there's Aquarius, Taurus, Sagittarius. They have all of those constellations, and I know those are real. So I have to imagine that with Colorverse's pedigree for picking real scientific or astronomical themes, that these are probably real.
Okay. So let's say they're real, and there's one out there called Monkey Head. Yay! Mm-hmm. I like the idea of Monkey Head.
Yeah.
So many immature jokes with that name. And then there's a greenish one called Cat's Eye Nebula. I can totally get on board with that. And finally, there is I don't even know what color this is, but it's called Iris Nebula. It's like a grayish, purplish.
Yeah, grayish, purplish.
Yeah. So they all look really fantastic. I think.
You know what's missing off of this one though? There's the 4th color, Chicken Head Nebula.
Are you messing around, or is that true?
Yeah, I'm messing around.
Okay.
Sorry, we didn't get past the disclaimer before we're dropping that one.
Right. Chicken head. Yeah. Okay. So there is no chicken head, right? Bryce didn't leave out the chicken head one, right? Okay.
No.
So don't say stuff like that during the sponsorship. People are gonna think it's real. They're gonna be like, "I wanted my chicken head." now I'm never listening to this podcast ever again because you made me think there was going to be chicken head. Instead, I have to settle for monkey head, cat's eye nebula, and iris nebula, all glistening inks. They're gorgeous, and it's part of Colorverse Project. New experiment in colors and radiant ideas. It's volume 6, Nebula Special. So check those out. Make sure you get them at Goldspot Pens using the affiliate link in the description below. Okay, so like I said before, I want to talk about the pen show that's coming up, so I'm really excited to talk about that. I'm going to show you some acquisitions that I got this week. But before we get started with this week's episode of the podcast, I want to give you guys a quick disclaimer. This podcast is not scripted and therefore will contain potty mouth words, both from Tom and I, mostly from me. So be forewarned, you have been warned. Now, on to the podcast.
The PenBoyRoy Entertainment Podcast. Stay savage.
Find the Pens, I will entertain our audience with me drinking a Starbucks cup of coffee that I had just received when taking my wife out for a very quick date to the local Barnes & Noble. We perused all of the stacks of books. It was a recently remodeled Barnes & Noble, and they changed the layout so that it has like a whole bunch of these little like awesome nooks where you could actually sit down, you could open up a book, you could just pull one off the shelf and check it out. But yeah, we were just browsing and drinking coffee.
I didn't know Barnes & Noble still existed.
They do. The one that's in my area downsized. So they had a whole big building, and then they moved in where an old sports store was, like in the same strip mall area. Okay. But they downsized. But the thing is, like, even though they downsized, the store still feels massive because of the way that they laid it out.
Oh, that's cool.
And they're really taking advantage of this, like, you know, this popularity in reading that comes from Book Talk. If you've ever heard of that, no. Where there's a lot of influencers out there that are talking about the books that they're reading, and there's like a subgenre of TikTok where it's called #BookTalk, and that's how my wife and I have been able to find a lot of interesting books that we like, is because you have these people who are like, I read this, I enjoy this, you would also love this. And that's you just get down the rabbit hole that way. Okay. So, similarly to how you do with fountain pens, you know.
I'm glad, because I remember when I was a kid, there was a Barnes & Noble bookstore in the Bay Terrace shopping center, and it was huge. And you could literally go in there, and I would go in there and read graphic novels and comic books at the cafe that they had.
Yeah.
At the time, it wasn't Starbucks, I don't believe. It turned into Starbucks eventually.
It did, yeah.
So it was almost like, it sucks, I guess, because I was a kid, so I didn't have money, so I would just read them and then put them back. I didn't.
Just as long as you don't crease the spines and doggy ear the pages.
I know I wouldn't. Right. I wouldn't do that because someone's going to buy that, and I wouldn't.
We were going to ask, but they were closing the place up. But we wanted to kind of get a barometer on like what the etiquette is on if like we want to bring in a library book that we have and then just sit there amongst all of the other books and read. Because it's a pretty cool place to go to and hang out. Like, it's a nice vibe that you get there. But it just kind of seems counter-commercial productive if you bring in a book from the outside and then just enjoy their space reading a book. Maybe you could buy a coffee, but, you know.
I mean, I think if you bought coffee and you, like, spent money, like, having like snacks and coffees, I think they probably wouldn't mind, but I think that's the right thing to do, to ask about the etiquette and stuff like that, because a lot of times you end up doing stuff you don't even realize, you know, like,
is it like, against store policy, is it not?
Yeah, and there might be a standard that you don't know about. Like, for example, I found out about this one recently from Instagram Reels. There's a guy named Joey Swole, and he's a TikTok, Instagram influencer for physical fitness and gym etiquette. And I don't think I ever did it, or if I did, I unknowingly did something that's not gym etiquette. Like, for example, you know where the dumbbells are? The racks of dumbbells?
Yes.
So I never realized until I saw this guy's video that if you take a set of dumbbells, you need to move away from the rack and not stand within like a few feet of the rack and like do your workout. So I think that I might be guilty of that. I won't do it again, but I don't really go to commercial gyms. I always go to my private gyms. But the next time I go to a commercial gym, which I don't foresee happening in a while, I'll take it away so that way I don't block any access. You know what I mean? Like, I usually stand about 3 feet away it's enough room for someone to get through, but it could be uncomfortable. So I know not to do that anymore. And then I don't think I did it a lot because when I do use dumbbells, I usually bring it to the bench that I'm using. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I always obviously re-rack and wipe. That's what I do at my private gym. I don't go to a commercial gym. But I usually go to a spot, so I don't usually stand in front of the rack because it's not gym etiquette. So I learned that. And you wouldn't even know to ask that. Like, hey, is this etiquette? You wouldn't even know that there's anything wrong with it until someone tells you. So, there's that. And
or until you get the stink eye from enough people,
But the thing is, I don't pay attention to other people when I'm in the gym. I just don't. Like I have
You're too absorbed into all of this.
Yeah, like I just put my buds in. Yeah. I listen to my Blackpink playlist because I love Blackpink. And I just do my workout. I don't even I don't make eye contact with people. I just do my workout. I don't chit chat, so I just do my thing. But if someone did come up to me and be like, hey, listen, man, what you're doing is kind of like not gym etiquette. Can you do it like this? I would just be like, yeah, sure. Thanks for telling me, and move on. You know what I mean? And then not do it again. And obviously the same old gym etiquette that everybody knows, like if you're filming yourself in the gym and someone's uncomfortable with it, don't film in the gym while they're there. You know what I mean?
Man, the last time that I've gone to a gym was well before that ever was an issue. That just it brought me back to that's the last time I ever went in. It was before cell phones.
Yeah, but the thing is that the gym is not the only place to get in shape. You can just do it outside because I know you run a lot. You can do it in your basement. You can do push-ups. You can do burpees. The gym is
but the concept of somebody filming themselves while working out, to me, it just is I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do it too. I'll do an exercise, and I'll throw it up. I don't do it that much because I'm not an authority in the gym. You know what I mean? I'm 180 pounds, and I think results that I attain come more so from dieting the right way than workout. So I've had a personal trainer, a lady named on her Instagram handle is Body by K.
Okay.
So her name starts with a K. I can't remember if it's Karina. I think it's Karina, but this lady is in shape, man, and she's like diesel, and she's been working out for 30 years, and I did have her tell me my form and
sucks.
Posture is perfect.
Okay.
So yeah, no, she was telling me that it's perfect, and
nice.
Yeah, and what I do is I always just started with a weight that I can do, and then over time slowly increase. So, she wasn't trying to sell me on any kind of personal training or anything like that, but she was like, you're extremely strong. You have perfect form, and your strength comes from doing these things with perfect form.
Right.
So it made me feel good. Yeah.
Yeah. So did you end up finding those pens from the
Yes, I did.
show?
So
you did.
Yeah, the date is April 26, Wednesday, 2023, and this past weekend on April 22nd, Saturday, myself and a couple of friends and one of my friend's cousin, we carpooled, all four of us, and we went to the New York Metropolitan Pen Show, formerly known as the Long Island Pen Show. So you're probably going to ask me, oh, how was it? And I'm going to tell you, I got to be honest, I know we had the guys on the show, but it was not good. It was it wasn't good. It wasn't bad, but it's closer, it's just a touch away from good. Because
now, why was that? So would you say it was not as good of an experience as the time that we went in October of last year?
Yes, it was not as good as an experience as when we went in, I think it was August of last year that we went.
It was October.
You and I. Okay, let's say it's October.
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure it was August.
It was last
He said
year
on the show that it was August.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
It is.
But whatever. Let's say it's October or August. I am pretty sure it was August, but let's just say I'm wrong. Not really essential to the story. It's the Long Island Pen Show of 22. Tom and I went with a friend of mine, right? We went with a couple of friends of mine.
And many T-shirts.
And many T-shirts. So the problem with this year's show was as soon as you enter, Kenro was on the right side.
There were no T-shirts.
But they were the only distributor there. There was one or two actual retailers. One of them was Crazy Allen's, and the other one was the Federalist Pen and Papers.
Okay.
And those were the only actual retailers. And pretty much everybody else was Mike, the owner of the Pen Show, selling his collection, or non-retailers and just individuals selling their stuff. And that's cool. That's not what I have a problem with. What I have a problem with was there was so much empty space. There were there was so much empty space.
Even in that small little, because it was in the same room in Hofstra?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it took 10 minutes 15 minutes to circle and go through the whole thing.
Yeah.
And then another 5 just to revisit and stuff like that. Right?
Damn.
So the issue with this show, the New York Metropolitan Pen Show, is Mike and Mario, they got to figure out a way to do better at marketing, to getting the word out. Mm-hmm. When I went there, it was about 2:00, and there was more people working the show than there were actual visitors. And so I think there's 2 problems with this. The first problem is that they tried, but I don't think they created enough. They didn't get enough retailers. Now, I love that there are people selling their personal collections, not connections. Mm-hmm. There's people selling their personal stuff, and it's great because it's not as risky as eBay, some dude selling his personal collection, because you don't know the guy. You're not looking at the actual pen. You're not, at least here, you may not know who it is you're buying from, but at least you know what you're buying by holding it, looking at it, talking about it, and that's fine. So I don't have a problem with people being there selling their personal collection. I think that's great.
Yeah, you could find a lot of really unique items, vintage.
And I did. But the thing is, like I said, there just was not enough of them.
Right.
So it seemed somewhat lame. You know what I mean? And I think the lack of marketing on part of Mark and Mario has a 2-pronged issue. First issue is you're not getting customers and visitors coming through the door.
Right.
And because of the lack of marketing, there's no buzz and there's no incentive for retailers or other names in the business to come. Like, for example, Goldspot didn't come.
Oh, Goldspot doesn't really attend.
Do shows, right? But like, let's say this show was marketed really well. The name got out there. And it was the only thing people were talking about, and people were all talking about going, and they can't wait to go. Wouldn't that put in Kieran Rosal's mind, maybe we should?
Yeah, and Philadelphia for that is kind of like that for Goldspot, because it's close enough, and the show tends to get a bit of some buzz, especially since it's like one of the first ones that happened during the year. Yeah, we have gone and tabled there a few times, but you know, it's just for us, it's a different sort of game, you know.
Yeah, I understand that. And on top of that, you know, they did try to get other retailers. They called everybody. They tried to get retailers, distributors to come. They tried to get everybody to come, but the draw is not there. You're not going to excite Appleboom. You're not going to excite the German guy with the ponytail. What the fuck is his name?
Oh, the German guy with the ponytail.
Yeah, he's got in California.
Oh, are you talking about
Bittner?
Bittner's out of the game.
Really, I didn't know that.
Bittner sold it to the Pleasure of Writing. It's a different brand altogether now.
Okay,
the same store, but they changed it. Yeah,
irrelevant. Let's say he was in the game. You're not exciting him to come. You're not getting Jaffa brands to come. You know what I'm saying? And you know, this was what we were talking about with Mario and Mike. Say what you will about companies like Jaffa Brands, but they show up and they put on a show, and the show includes highly accessible pens for people who don't have a lot of money. Kenro shows up, come hell or high water, and they put on a table and a show. The thing is, though, everything is high-end and very expensive, so it's not very accessible. And then you have Mike, the owner of the show. He has his huge table. It takes up the whole center of the room. And everything is vintage stuff that's high-end. We're talking several $100s on the low end. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the stuff that is accessible is stuff that you probably don't want to buy. It's like an old beat-up pen that you need to get restored, or they're in a tray without cases. They're not displayed individually. They're just like, you know what I'm talking about? Things like that.
Was there at least a nib meister there doing like nib work and things like that, or?
I don't remember. I remember
like
saying
JJ Lax was there last year.
I didn't see JJ there.
No.
I don't remember seeing a Nibmeister. Maybe there was one. I'm not saying there wasn't. I just remember thinking, is there a Nibmeister? And then forgetting to look for one. Right?
Jeez.
Yeah. And then like you had...
It would have been hard to miss if you spent the whole 10 minutes looking through the entire...
Well, I actually... So, you know, on a personal level, there was good experiences being there.
Yeah.
But it's not because the show was so great. It was because of who was at the show.
Right.
Right? So... Like I said, I don't recall there being a Nibmeister. There could have been, and I just didn't pay attention. I'm not saying there wasn't. I'm just saying I don't remember one. But Crazy Alan was there, and you know he was there talking about pens and trying to sell his pens. And I remember, like I said, I remember Federalist Pens and Paper. Tactile Turn was there also, I think.
Okay.
Is that the name? I can't remember. They machined it.
Yeah.
And they had like
the
3 or 4
machined
pens on the full table with a couple of knives.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was a bunch. Like I said, most of it was individuals with no real affiliation. Not that you need to have one. Like I said, it's great.
But just
that
like
selling.
their own personal collections that they're
Yeah,
selling.
their own personal collection. And on the one hand, yes, you get to see what you're buying. You know what you're buying. You get to hold it, feel it. You can. I don't know. I don't ask people.
But that
when
counts
it comes
for
to,
anything that's at a pen show.
Sure.
But what you're
sure.
saying is what was missing is like something entry level for somebody who it maybe just has like a, you know, kind of a burning interest more than a full blown passion.
Yeah. So, you know, but going back to what I was saying about the individual selling their pens, there's no recourse if anything goes wrong, right? So you buy a pen that's 30 years old. And even though at the moment you're like, oh, this is nice, it looks really good, let me dip test it, or, you know, or something, or, you know, let me hold it, let me uncap it, let me take a look at it, and then you decide to buy it, and then when you get home, it's old and the plastic crumbles. That didn't happen to me, but let's say that did happen. That's it. I'm not taking a refund from a guy who's selling his personal collection, because he's not going to get another pen to replace it. He's just losing out on the money and the pen. So...
Yep.
You kind of have to know what you're getting into when you buy from that, and there could be zero element of dishonesty on part of the seller. It just, there's a higher likelihood of bad luck, and I don't think there's anything entirely wrong with that as long as you're prepared for that. So this time around, I'm pretty lucky. I bought 2 pens, both that are from the 90s.
All right.
And yeah, they're fine. They work fine. I inked them up. They write wonderfully. Mario gave me a bottle of New York City, USA, Robert Oster's ink. So here's the ink. It's
Cool.
It's a cerulean blue ink by Robert Oster.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fantastic. You know, it's very nice shading. I put up some Instagram on it. The 2 pens that I did buy is a story in itself. And then that's it. So the 3 people that came with me are all pen enthusiasts. They were excited about the show. They had a good time.
Nice.
They don't have anything to compare it to. Like if the first show was the Long Island Pen Show several years ago, I think they would have had a way better time. But there was nothing that they wanted to buy. And these are 3 guys who are at the start, if not they have started their fountain pen virus infection. It's at the point in their fountain pen infection where they wanted to just go there and go on a spending frenzy.
They wanted to drop some bills, and they
wanted
couldn't.
to drop some bills, but there was just not much that piqued their interest, and they walked out of there not buying anything at all. I was almost going to do the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't.
But then again, you have to be held. You told the entire audience you were going to a pen show last week, and in the back of your head somewhere, you were like, I have to buy at least one pen to show that I was here.
Well,
that I came.
A couple of people came up to me and wanted pictures and stuff like that, and
oh, cool.
And then there was a guy, guy named Lamb, who I met a couple of years ago. He came up to me the exact same way this time as he did a couple of years ago. He's like, "Excuse me, are you PenBoyRoy?" I'm like, "Yes." And I remembered who he was. Sweet kid and young kid. And then he was like, he wanted a picture. I'm like, "Of course, let's take a picture." And then he's like, "Oh, I met you and took a picture with you a couple of years ago." I'm like, I do remember. I got his name wrong though, because I'm not good with names. I'm good with faces, like you can't believe. Like I remember faces like photographs. But I thought his name was not Lamb. I thought it was like Wang.
I could forget somebody's name within the end of the conversation. I'm just terrible with that.
So Lamb, I think it was his name Lamb? Lamb, if you're listening, I remembered you. Don't worry. Thanks for coming up to me.
But I just completely forgot your name.
But thanks everybody for coming up to me saying hello. It means a lot. I certainly do appreciate it. But the story that happened to me at the pen show that I think was the very main reason why I was so glad I went to the pen show was it had to do with my past. So real quick, just going back to what I was saying before, the Long Island Pen Show Linda Kennedy and Mike Kennedy used to come, and they would have a table. Josh Lax would be there. You'd have 5 or 6 grinders. You'd have different distributors. It's almost as if the feeling I got was everybody bailed on this one. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's the feeling I got. The energy was very low. And it was, like I said, they did the best they could or the best they knew how, but it wasn't. If that's how every pen show is, then I'm probably not going back to a pen show. So
right.
I talked to Mario and Mike. Holy cow. Mm-hmm. I'm so stupid. I can't remember names. I talked to Mario and Mike, and they asked me, "Hey, listen, what can you do? How can you help us out?" And I'm like, "Listen, whatever you need to help make this show better, I'll do it. I'll do it." And I'm probably going to end up using you, Tom, because when it comes to marketing, that's your wheelhouse. You know what I mean? That's your wheelhouse.
Tom, you know what I just did? I just bought the New York Metropolitan Pen Show, and I'm going to going to run it. I need you to run it for me.
Yeah, that's. Well, I mean, listen.
Sounds about right. It sounds like a great T-shirt idea.
Yeah, if I were going to invest money, it wouldn't be in the New York Metropolitan Pen Show, and if I did, I certainly wouldn't do it on an impulse like I did with the other things that I bought and then dumped on you. It definitely would be a long conversation with you, where I'm literally fucking taking notes, and if you say not to do something, I'm going to trust you and just not do it. You know what I mean? Just like
so, we should have
ideas. We
should have for the next one. We should have a coupon code. And then for anybody that goes to the New York Metropolitan Pen Show using our coupon code, we should get like a nice little cut of that action. You know what I'm saying?
Seems somewhat selfish. We're trying to help the pen show get good.
But I mean, there has to be some sort of motivation for us too to have to put out the
right.
But
how does that get people to go to the pen show? That's what we're trying to
because
figure out
we told them to.
Right. I tell people to buy BRL Coffee Co. and from BRL Coffee Co. But I don't seem to think they're doing that. Hence the absence of the sponsorship this week.
Well, we could do this. We could have like our own table at the show, and we could be like autographing stuff, or we could do like a live taping of the podcast there. And that could be, like,
that's an
one
idea.
Of the main events
that
would be
there. The autograph thing is a little bit cocky. I don't think people would give a shit. So
we could sign cans of seltzer or body parts, whatever you'd like.
I think the podcast recording idea is a great thing. I think the idea of making social media content and including people who come and doing giveaways, walking around. Like at one point, it got to a point they're doing giveaways all day, but it got to a point where there's so few people that they're just like, you know what? Let's not do the giveaway. You know what I mean? There's just
We
not
could do
enough
like
people.
shots. Okay, so we could do shots, and then they would look like little ink. We could do shots out of ink sample vials, and then whoever like takes the most of them like will win a bottle of ink. There you go.
You get this as a college campus, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Gotta get
All
the
right.
college kids out there.
All right. So anyway, let me go back to my story of why the pen show was so valuable to me on that Saturday was because, and like I said, it has something to do with my past. So when I was a young man,
You are
my
still a young
career-
man.
I don't feel young. I'm 43, but when I was a young man, I was, it was
When
my
I
20s,
was a
my-
young warthog.
What was that from?
Go ahead.
Is that
Sorry.
Lion King?
Yes.
Oh. So, I was a martial arts instructor, and I managed a school. We had a staff of like 10 people, I think, instructors and managers. I was an instructor and I was the head manager at that time. This was about 18 years ago. And I remember signing up a gentleman for classes, training, right? And it was intense. And he was extremely out of shape at the time. He was not in healthy shape. And my big thing at the time was if someone comes in and they are looking to get in shape, then I'm not going to let them leave without committing to it. So at the time we did month free trials or month trials for $100. I can't remember what was the promotion at the time.
Yeah.
But when I had the early renewal conference with him after the second or third week, he sat down and he was like, okay, so let's talk dollars and cents. If it's not a lot of dollars, it makes sense. If it's too many dollars, it makes no sense. So I showed them the price of the programs, and at the time the programs were sold in packages of classes,
Right.
and they don't expire. So the package I showed him, there was a 65 class program, a 150 class program, 250 class program, 400. I just can't remember the rest of it, but I remember I showed him the 65 class program, and at the time it was $1,350 for 65 classes, and you kind of use them like tokens throughout the week. When you run out of them, you buy more, but they don't
Right.
expire.
And how many usually would you do per week?
A lot of guys would do 2 classes a day, 2 or 3 times a week.
Oh, crap.
Yeah. So they burn through those classes pretty fast.
Wow.
But if like they went away for a year, when they come back, it's still there for them.
Ah.
Yeah. So I remember he scoffed at the price and he told me, no way I'm paying that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember telling him, and it might have, it probably came off very harsh, and I told him that, you're morbidly overweight, and you have to make lifestyle choices that will extend your life instead of shorten it.
Right.
And you need to commit to it. Because if you don't, you're going to be victim to so many different things that's going to shorten your life. Meanwhile, we live in a world where everything is trying to kill us. I said, don't leave here. You sign up. You pay the money. And then you come every week. And you make that decision because you care about yourself. And I might have been a little harsher at the time because I was a little bit more arrogant as a young man. I was fighting and I was feeling tough and strong and I felt like I was in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember he said to me, okay. And then we went over the pricing again, and he ended up staying for 3 years, right? And the last time I had seen him before the show, because I did run into him at the show, was 15 years ago. I was on the subway. And at that time, I remember thinking, wow, this guy, he did come every week for 3 years. He didn't stop.
And
of
how
course-
did he progress? Like, because you said he was like morbidly obese.
Yeah. How did he
progress
while
in,
I was
like 3
while
years?
I was there? I don't think he progressed much.
No?
Because the misconception and the thing is, well, it's not a misconception, but if you eat unhealthy foods and you have a poor dietary lifestyle, and because of that you gain an extreme amount of weight, doing that and exercising is better than doing that and not exercising, right? But I always tell this to people, and it's just the truth. There is nothing you can do as an adult to out-train a poor diet. You can never catch up with a poor eating lifestyle. There's no exercise.
You can't make up with like a ton of exercise to make up for terrible eating habits.
No. So like if you eat garbage all week and then you are a mountain climber, maybe for a while it'll work, but how long will that be sustainable before joints can't take it anymore? You just can't out-train a poor diet. You just can't. And there's people who say, oh, I train hard so that I can drink and eat fries on the weekends and stuff like that, and it works for them for a while, but it will catch up, and there is nothing you can do to out-train a poor diet. So over the last couple of years, I thought about him. And I thought about him especially during the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, because that was the year I went to a lot of funerals. It wasn't an easy year. Buddy of mine.
And you were thinking because of his condition that he was susceptible to getting it and possibly getting. But I'm guessing this is going to lead to the fact that you might have seen him on.
Yeah, you predicted that well, because I did say I did run into him. So I did run into him. He was at a table. And what caught my eye at the table was this pen here, the Schaefer Balance from the 1990s. It's
Cool.
It's exactly the same as the Schaefer Balance that I have in green that I got from Anderson
It's a blue
Pens.
pen.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. I like the green color better, but there's a little crack in the acrylic on the one I got from Anderson Pens. And knowing that, now I'm afraid to use it because I'm afraid temperature or pressure or being in my pocket is going to flex it and cause it to crack more. So I put this off to the side, and it's just something I look at. But this one I examined very carefully, and where the clip goes into the cap, I looked very carefully. I'm like, all right, no cracks. The threads are very smooth. On the back of the section, the nib size was still there. Since then, I rubbed it off. I rubbed it off. Yeah, 14 karat gold nib. It had the converter, and he even had the box, which I put away somewhere. Yeah. So I asked him, what does he want for it? So he said, 125, and I was just like, people will sell that pen for 200, 225, and I was like, I don't feel right taking it at that price. It's just, you don't know what. I mean, he's been collecting pens since since the 1990s, but I kind of was just like, all right, let me think about it. And then I wandered over a few feet over, and he had the Levenger Kyoto. And I was just mesmerized by the acrylic on the Levenger Kyoto. It's a mix of blues and navy blues and light browns and brown, and it's just so beautiful, and it's just so new. This pen came out in the 90s, but it's just so new. It's
new to you.
Well, there's no signs of any usage. It's never been inked up. I swear to God, he bought it and then forgot about it. That's what it had to be. So I was asking him, I'm like, are these pens, have they ever been inked up? He's like, I can tell you the Levenger hasn't, but I'm not sure about the Schaefer. I don't think it was. So I'm like, okay, no problem. And then I chatted with him, and then I'm thinking, I'm like, hey man, you used to live in Bayside, right? And he said, yes. I'm like, and you trained at the martial arts school in Bayside? He's like, yeah. And I was like,
so in the midst of like talking about the pens, you kind of had that sense of familiarity, like he looked familiar, and you were trying to place where he was from, or did you know it's like that's the guy?
So let me keep going on with the story.
Okay.
So when I looked at him, I recognized him.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't sure. But I'm really good with faces. I'm really good with people's faces and facial features and all those things that I noticed about his facial features when I met him 17 years ago were there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this is him. But there's no way it can be him. Because the guy I knew was about 100 pounds heavier and looked older.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So finally, I'm just like, there's no way that a human being can look so similar. And then I thought to myself, losing weight and having less stress in your life and improving your diet has almost restorative effects.
Right.
So maybe that's why he looks younger. So I actually asked him, I'm like, hey man, do you know me? He's like, you look familiar. I'm like, okay, you used to live in Bayside, Queens, right? He's like, yeah. I'm like, and you trained at the Martial Arts Academy. He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I was the instructor. I was the manager. Don't you remember me? And he's like, holy shit, yes.
Mm.
And I was like, I didn't recognize you because you lost so much weight. So he was like, yeah, I kept training there for 3 years and stuff. But then the owner of the school, he was just an asshole. He was, he kind of had this air of arrogance about him. He's not a friendly person. He talks down to people if they're not fully committed and stuff. It's toxic. You know what I mean? So he left so my friend left because, he's an adult and he, at the time he was 50 and there's no reason for him to be putting up with bullshit like that from, someone 10 years younger than him, the owner of the school. But I can't tell you how happy I was because of the fact that he's retired. This friend of mine that he's retired. Yeah. He's doing very well. And he's now in the process of moving to another state. And he promised his wife he'd clear out a lot of his collection. And that's why he was there.
That's crazy that he's also into fountain pens too.
Yeah, and he had been even back then. I just never talked about it with him because why would you, right? Like, why would you randomly talk about it in a martial arts school? But that was the moment I'm just like, all right, so like, I couldn't tell him how happy I was that he's doing well. I don't know why I couldn't. Because in the back of my head, when you don't when you don't see people or hear from them for a really long time, and then something comes along and wipes people out the way the coronavirus did, sometimes you just want to stop thinking about them because of the possibility that they're not around anymore. You know what I mean?
Like you already think the worst. That
and I just had no choice but I, like, over the last year or two, I actually thought about him and I kind of just really wanted him to be well. I wanted him to be around and doing well and happy. And then when I saw him at the show, I was like, this is the greatest blessing that I've received, that I've experienced. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because in 2020, I lost several good friends. Some from coronavirus, some from cancer, some from just not being able to handle it anymore, and they just make ultimate decisions. But so I was really happy. So I was just like, you know what? How much do you want for this pen, the Schaefer, and the Levenger? He quoted me a price that was like way too much at this point. I don't know what happened with the numbers and stuff, but I was just like, you got it, man.
All three of them put together, it was like the sum was greater than the parts or something like that.
Right. And the thing is though, I didn't give a shit. I the guy's moving.
I was hoping you would tell me that you were going to push back on him a little bit. It's like, it's way too much, and then he was going to be like,
not at all.
He was going to throw what you said to him back at you.
I couldn't push back at all, and I wasn't willing to because at that moment I was so grateful to be standing in front of him. Mm-hmm. I was so happy that if he said $800, I'd been glad to pay it.
Look, I've
You know
been
what I mean?
looking for somebody at this show to give my money to, and you being here in the flesh and doing
Yeah.
well, just take my wallet. Just here,
Yeah.
here you go. So
Yeah,
how's
and then,
how's the True Writer going for you? Because I've had one of those before, way
I
back
really-
when, and it wasn't like my favorite.
I love it. I love it. Issues
Yeah?
though, I don't know if it's because it's 30 years old and maybe over time something. The only thing that you can fit into here is the cartridges. The converter that it comes with that says Levenger on it, the diameter of the nipple that goes in, the chimney that goes in, is
Yeah.
too big for the section.
Ain't that something?
Yeah. So like the cartridge in here is pretty tight, and I have to really push it in. But you know what? I don't give a shit. The pen is gorgeous, and it means more to me than a perfect pen. The same goes for the Schaefer Balance. The Schaefer Balance writes fine. It's like a brand new pen, and it came with the box. It's just a gorgeous pen. I love the Schaefer Balance. I don't know why this one tickles my heart so much, but the Schaefer Balance in general, like the green one, like if I go to a show and I find a green one that doesn't have the crack, I'm probably going to get suckered into buying it just because it's there. I looked for one. I saw a vintage one with the lever filler, but I didn't want the discoloration that came with it. So,
Okay.
yeah. So, I mean, so for me, we exchange numbers, and I think it's just you kind of like I got one back. You know what I mean? You kind of lose chips over the course of time, and then when you finally get one back, it's a big deal. So for that, this show has been one of the best shows I've been to for that reason. It's one of the suckiest shows, but one of the best shows that I went to.
Yeah, it's really the
And-
people that make the show happen.
Yeah.
The connection.
I spent a good amount of time there talking with him, talking about the past where we've both got to in the last, because at the time I was like 24, 25. Now I'm 43. So it's 17, 18 years ago. Lots changed.
Yep.
So, and his wife is such a sweet woman. She was like, and she was like, "Oh, you look like a baby. You don't look like you're 43." And I was like, "Good call, marrying that one, man."
So the wife was there supervising, making sure those pens left the table and that no new pens were being collected.
Yeah. But like I said, the show as a whole wasn't the greatest show in the world. And I texted him the next day. I wasn't home. I wasn't going again. And it was a Sunday. I'm like, "How's it going?" And it was like 4 in the afternoon. Poor guy sold one pen the entire day because it was so slow. Yeah.
It's like, you were my number one customer.
Yeah. And it's just, it's tough when you're selling your own personal collection, because I think the fact that there's no recourse if anything happens. Like, I can't go to Schaefer and be like, "Hey, I bought this pen at a pen show. It's 30 years old and the nib is scratchy. Can you do something about it?" I don't know how that works, but fortunately, man, this thing has made this fucking beast. I like it. I like it.
Now,
a
did
lot.
you get to try out the nib before you left the table? Did you be able to run it over a piece of paper or something like that just to see how the nib was? Or?
No, it was weird. I just didn't care.
You were just just give me all of them.
Yeah, I just said,
I'll
give
just
me
take them."
those. I'll buy those. You know what I mean? I was more happy and grateful that he's well than anything else. And it was just like, least I can do is spend a few $100s and help you with your move. You know what I mean? And I wanted the pens. I don't really, did I overpay? I don't give a shit. I really don't.
Does he know now that
you
you
saw,
have a pen review channel?
I don't think I got a chance to talk to him about that. I mean, I will. You know what I mean? Maybe he. I didn't have a chance to. So that's why the show was really awesome. After that, we went to Outback. And I watched
you got your two steaks.
I only had one.
Oh, only one this time. Okay.
Yeah, an 18-ounce ribeye. and I sat there. You know what sucks about a lot of times being on the keto diet is it sucks because you're restricted. You don't eat the bread. You don't eat the pumpernickel bread with the butter. And then they order 7 appetizers before the main, and all I can have is the main course. So I'm sitting there watching them eat all this delicious stuff, and I'm starving. And I just have to wait, and that's part of the diet that sucks. But can I go back to what else I have?
Sure.
So I also have a new pen that is going to fucking give you a boner.
Nice.
And this one was sent to me by the lovely people over at Pen Chalet. So Pen Chalet is doing some sort of promotion where they're doing like people, influencers and non-influencers, just people like drawing stuff. I don't know the parameters of the thing. I even messaged today, but I guess they're busy because they haven't had a chance to get back to me. But when she or he or whoever is there texting on the Pen Chalet Instagram page, and I didn't bother bothering Ron about it because he just won't know. He lets Sarah Beth handle everything. I think it's Sarah Beth. I don't know. Her identity is, or his identity. Whoever's on the other side of that could be a fucking ninja. I don't even know. But Ron won't know. He'll just let them handle it. They didn't give me any guidance. Like, am I supposed to draw something in particular? Do I draw anything I want? When do you want the posting? And do you want everybody to draw it and then post it the same day? Like, I'm not sure. But they sent me a pen that I want to show you. Ready to get your dick hard? Bum, bum, bum.
Oh, nice.
Oh, the Leonardo Officina
hearing,
Italiana.
I'm sorry, but I'm hearing stuff going on downstairs. Like, I'm hearing like lots of stuff.
Is
What's
it
going
like
on?
bad?
No, I'm still on the podcast. What?
It's in the kitchen, and I think it's trapped inside the house now, probably.
Wow. What is it?
It's a mouse.
The kids are calling it Biggie Cheese.
What?
There's something on the internet called Biggie Cheese.
Biggie Cheese?
It's a big fat rat with chains around his neck. I don't know.
They think that an internet rat is. Do you need to go? I could talk about this pen in front of while you're gone.
Literally like running around the kitchen.
This is gonna be a project that's gonna take longer than just a couple of minutes. So
All right.
We'll wrap it up here, and then
Okay.
I'll go and take care of the piggy
All right.
cheese
So
problem, whatever
I'm gonna make it haste. I'll do it in haste. So it's the Leonardo Officina
Sorry.
Italiana Supernova. I'm just gonna unbox it for you because it's such a gorgeous pen. You have seen this pen material before in several other pens. However, I think that they did a fantastic job. So I'm taking the pen out of the sleeve. It has the little Leonardo tag. So this is the Supernova. It's a flat top and bottom Momento Zero essentially, with a nice center band, and it has a black nib to match the trim. It's a Yovo number 6 size stainless steel nib, and the material is the amber colored in the Edison Collier, and
Yes.
it's also the Conklin Duragraph, the brown material. So this material is a stock material. You've seen it before, but great looking pen. I'm going to do a doodle and draw on time-lapse camera with, I guess, this pen at some point once I speak to
What are you going
somebody
to
over
draw? Did you come up with that?
there. Yes, I did. I think I told you
did.
about it, but
Oh.
I'm not going to tell you again because you don't pay attention. But you'll see. I'm going to do like a time-lapse video. I'm going to do a proper unboxing, but I think it's a beautiful pen. So anyway, it's about that time anyway, and there is a monster roaming around the kitchen
Apparently
downstairs.
There's something crazy going on, so
Yeah.
I have to attend to.
Are you on your computer or your phone?
Computer.
Okay. Can you FaceTime me? I want to see what's going on.
Yes, I will.
Okay, cool. Anyway, just thank you for joining me for this week's episode of the PenBoyRoy Entertainment Podcast. It's episode number 161. I'm sorry if I went off on a rant about my past and stuff like that, but it was a very important show for me. If you stuck with it, thank you. If you hated it, I apologize. But thanks for joining us. I love you guys. Be well. Be safe.
Stay inky.